Okay, the plan is as follows. I'm going to start with sushi. Which really is the halachas of ikr v'tafel. The problem is, it's not a problem, but the problem is each of these shiurim really is a shiur unto itself. So we could either focus on none of them, or we're going to focus on one, and other ones, pizza and wraps, I think, are more, I don't want to say together hack, but, there are some very important details. And then there's a lot of, other stuff going on. So let's get there. Let's see how much we get there. Someone said we have all day. I don't know if that was a real comment or not. I mean, I guess we have until the food finishes for sure. But it wasn't a real comment. Okay, just making sure. So here we go. So no, but on a serious note, we have a half hour? Half hour is good. 45 minutes. What's the other one? Before we start, just tell me what we're doing. No one wants to comment.
10:45, some people want to be a KBT.
10:45, they want to be a KBT. So we have 10:40. Beautiful. 10:40 for sure we have to finish. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about sushi to start, and then we'll give a little bit on pizza and wraps, and it could be, we could have a part two if the Ilam wants, we'll see. When it comes to sushi, the bracha on sushi is something that I find fascinating personally when people parrot that, this rabbi said it's this, and this rabbi said it's that, and it's very silly. It's very silly. Why is it very silly? And you might say, how can you say such a thing is silly? Open up the Sfarim, and they say, Rabbi Yashiv said it's this, and they said it's this. But you have to look at the question, and you have to look at what they said and why they said it. And yes, there are Sfarim that when it comes to sushi, that they say it's a shackle. I even saw someone who says it's a shackle. I don't know where they get that one from. But, it is a mizaynis, it's two brachas, but it all depends. Why does it all depend? Because it really all depends on what bracha you make in a salad. What do you mean, what bracha do you make in a salad? In your salad, you have ha'itz, hadama, mizaynis, shahakol. You could have everything inside one salad. You have avocados, lettuce, mushrooms, and croutons. You have 4 brachas in a salad. So what bracha do you make in that salad? So the big mistake that people make with ikr v'tafel is, I don't know, so I'll just make all the brachas. Why is that a mistake? Because the word ikr and tafel means the main, tafel means the auxiliary. And if something is a real tafel, and you make a bracha on it, it's called a bracha levatala. For example, you have a bowl of cereal and milk. I don't think anyone in this world thinks that you have to make a shahakal on the milk. Now, don't you say, but I had a cup of milk next to it. No. Be very careful with the cases. It's all about what the case is. You have cereal and milk in front of you. So what bracha do you make on the cereal? What bracha is the cereal? Good luck trying to figure it out. I don't know. Go look it up somewhere. We'll get there. But if you, let's say, sat down at your bowl of cereal and milk and you said, I don't know, it's one bracha. You know what? I'm just going to make 2 brachas. I'll take a little Cheerios on the spoon, make a mezainis. Take a little milk on the spoon, make a shahakal. That is a bracha levatala according to all shitas. Why? Because when you made the mezainis on the cereal, you know what happens? It includes the shahakal. Very important lumdis. Listen to the lumdis. Very important, because then it's going to answer the next question. It's not that the milk is unimportant, so it doesn't need a bracha. That's not the pshat. Pshat is the mezainis on, and I'm saying mezainis or the hadam or whatever the bracha, whatever cereal you like is, that bracha goes on the milk as well. Why is that so important? Because what happens when you finish your cereal and milk and you have left at the bottom just milk and you want to go and you want to drink the milk? So now people say, I have to make a bracha. The simple pshat, and then we'll maybe get into nuanced cases, are absolutely not. Why not? You already made a bracha on the milk. When you made that mezainis, when you made that adama, you made it on the milk. So it's, again, if you thought it's because it's unimportant, then what happens? Now it's important. It's on the bottom of my bowl, I'm eating it by itself. But if you realize that the bracha on the cereal works on the milk, then you realize you do not need to make a bracha on that milk. However, sometimes what does happen is you'll have a lot of milk left over, and maybe you'll take yourself a cup of milk, and you'll have just the milk. Then that's true. What I'm doing now is I'm having milk, then it's true. You're going to have to make its own bracha. But if it is the auxiliary, and you just ends up eating it by itself, you do not make a bracha. Another case that this could be very relevant is with soup and croutons. So depending on your age bracket, usually determines how many croutons are with the soup or how much soup is with the croutons. So if you're eating soup with croutons, then usually that's one bracha. If you're having croutons with soup, usually it's going to be another bracha. But without getting complicated, the point we're bringing out is you have to know what is the ikr and what is the tuffle. What is the ikr? What is the tuffle? How do you know what's ikr? What is the tuffle? We're going to say it very quickly because I want to get into sushi and I want to get into pizza and I want to get into wraps. Basically, there's three rules. Rule number one, is there a mezainis? It's going to win. If there's a mezainis, it's going to win hands down. Rule number two, what's the majority? Rule number three, you don't know what to do. Let's go in order. Rule number one, it has a mezainis. Where does it have a mezainis? In the mixture. But how much? So the simple explanation is we have to look at, for example, let's give you another example. If you're having meat and potatoes, not a chalt, I'm not up to chalt yet. You're having meat and potatoes. So how are you eating it? So if I'm eating meat and then I'm eating potatoes, the fact that they happen to have been cooked together doesn't make a difference to me in life. I have to make two brachas because it's two different foods. But if I'm having meat and potatoes and I'm eating them together, then every single spoonful, every single forkful has a little meat, has a little potato, then it's a mixture. Then you have to ask, then you could potentially make one bracha. That's the reason under your challah it gets so confusing. Because if you have small potatoes and small meat and lots of barley, every single spoonful is what? Meat, potato, barley. So now you have to understand what bracha do you make, and it might only be one, it might be more. Why? Because in every single spoonful you have one. Now, when I say every spoonful, it does not require us to be OCD, and it does not require us to say, wait, but oh shoot, this spoonful didn't have a piece of barley. Go. No, that's not how it works. The way it works is it means in the majority, in the general cases, there's going to be meat and barley on every spoonful. So in that case, that's a very simple case. If your cholent has a lot of barley, what bracha is it? It's a mezainis. There's potatoes that are adama and there's meat that's shakol. Meat is very, very chashiv. Who cares? You're having barley. Now, if you have big pieces of potato in your cholent, and there's going to become a point that all you're going to be eating is a potato, are you now going to have to make a bracha in it? Of course, because it's not part of the mixture. That is a simple crash course in a very complicated world of ikr v'tafel. So now number one is going to be if it's a mezainis. If there's no mezainis, it goes by the majority. What's the majority that you're eating? And if there's no majority, then is when you're going to make multiple brachas. Often we end up in category three because often it's not so clear. For example, cholent is usually simpler. Usually, if it's a barley cholent, usually there's a lot of barley and it's simpler. When it comes to salads and yogurts, often it gets much more complicated because often there's not that many croutons. So, the fact that there's a few croutons, it's going to have to make a mezainis, but it's not going to work for everything because it's not all croutons. If I'm having a yogurt and there's fruit and there's granola and all these different things in it, so what's in every spoonful? I don't know. Sometimes every spoonful has a different item on it. So when you get to that level, that is when you make multiple brachas. When you make multiple brachas, it's when you eat that item. Means you take out this item, you make the brach on it, and you eat each item separately. With that quick crash course, now let's go into figure out what in the world is going on with sushi. What's going on with sushi? So, as the world, what? Oh, desserts is a whole other story on itself. I don't know if I want to open up that can of worms. Well, let's talk. Oh, when you're done, can you pass the job order, please? When it comes to sushi, so it really depends on your eating habits. Meaning, thank you so much. If I ask you, what are you eating? I'm eating sushi. But what are you eating? In sushi. Are you having rice? Are you having fish? You're having both. What are you doing? And every person is different. Usually the way that we eat it is pretty indicative. Meaning, if you have your 3 pieces of sushi and you have your cup full of soy sauce, sweet sauce, and your cup full of spicy mayo, and you take your sushi and you dunk it in both, and then you eat it. So what are you eating? You're eating rice. Before Slim. What are you eating? You're eating rice. That's all you're eating. You're not eating anything else. So therefore, what bracha do you make? It's only one bracha. You make a mezainis. And that mezainis works in everything. It works in your fish, and it works in your avocado eats, and it works in your cucumbers adama. Because really, what are you eating? You're having rice, and what are all the other ingredients doing for you? They're enhancing your rice to give you the mushel You're having a bowl of cereal. What's your milk doing for you? It's enhancing your cereal. There's a lot of milk in the bowl. There's a lot of milk there. Every spoonful there's milk. The answer is, what is the function of the milk? When I take a cracker and I dip it in a dip, do I make two brachas? One of the cracker, one of the dip? Of course not. Why? Because the dip is just enhancing my cracker. So anytime it's clear that this is the ikr and this item is enhancing that item, you make the bracha on the main item. So if I'm eating rice, and by the way, generally is the rice a majority also? Usually it is. Usually it is. Okay, maybe in some really large rolls where you have, stuff inside and stuff on top, maybe the rice won't be the majority, but usually the rice is the roiv also. So in that scenario, you're going to make one bracha. However, for the real sushi lovers amongst us, that they will eat the sashimi and they will eat just the raw fish. And they're saying, what do you mean? I'm not just having rice. I'm not some lack of cultural American over here that just eats rice and throws everything else in. I'm a fancy person. I like raw fish. I like avocados. I like rice. I like each item. And I also like them together. So now we have to try to figure out, is one enhancing the other or not? Often, if one really likes the fish, it's true. Then neither is enhancing the other, and you're eating two different items. And I'll show you where you see this very, very clearly. You see this very clearly in a poke bowl. Very, very clearly. Very, very clearly. Why? Because a poke bowl is rice, right? It's a lot of rice, but it's also a lot of avocado and a lot of cucumber and sometimes a lot of fish. So different people are going to eat this different ways. We'll have, again, the lack of cultural American. What's he going to do? He's going to mix the whole bowl up together, and then he just can eat it like a cholent. So what's he eating? He's having rice. And he has a little, I like the little bissel of fish and a little bissel of avocado, a little this, and tons of sauce. So what are you doing? You just made a sushi cholent. What you're doing is you're having rice, and it's a mezainis. Then you can have those. What are you talking about? I'll sit there and I'll take off this large, squealy, eely, drippy piece of fish and slurp it down, and then I'll eat the avocado, and then I'll have some rice in the bottom. So I'm not. So then it's true. So you see that it's two totally different worlds. How you appreciate your rice and your fish and your avocado. And that will determine the bracha that you make. And that's why I think it's very difficult to say, sushi's a mezainis. I don't know. I don't know. First of all, as some of you did say, it's not always the rice being the rive, and rice is a fake mezainis. I didn't say that. I know rice is a mezainis, but it's a fake mezainis. It's not as when it's a real mezainis, automatically it wins. I told you in the rules it goes real mezainis then rive, but rice is a fake mezainis, so not always is it going to subsume everything else. But if it's a majority rice, it's true, but often it's not. And often you really like the other items. And often it's not true that the avocado is enhancing the rice. And it's not true that the sushi is enhancing the rice. And you know what's really happening is I like the fish and I like the rice and I like each one. I like them together. And I'll bring you a raya. That's how I like it, Rabbi. Because when I eat the poke bowl, you know what I do? I eat each item separately. So in that scenario, it's true you would make two, maybe three brachas. Maybe three brachas. Maybe four. It gets hard to say. I don't know. I've yet to see a roll that there's so much fish and so much avocado and so much cucumber that you're going to tell me that the avocado and the cucumber are also, I don't know. I have a little bit of a hard time understanding that. And I would have assumed that the max you're going to make on a sushi is two brachas. That's what I would have assumed. I know there are those that say that no, you could really destruct it and you could make separate brachas in each item. I don't know. I have just a little bit of hard time someone making an eight on avocado and a hadama on that little stringy little cucumber guy. Like what's he doing there? No one even knows what's he doing inside. So I have a little bit of a hard time in that. But when it comes to the poke bowl, by the way, there I can hear it 100%. And as someone said to me, it might depend if you're the real cultural chevra and you're eating it with the chopstick. It's not even shaykh to eat it all together. Unless maybe that's like the mamish the schmitz, but l'chayra, if you're using a chopstick, you're eating each item separately. That's what you're doing, right? You're eating the fish and you're having some rice, and what you're really doing is you're having them separately. Then it would require separate brachas. So again, if you want to know what is, I just have to share a fascinating. They quote Rav Elyashiv. It's just fascinating. They say they asked Rav Elyashiv what bracha do you make in sushi. It's in the Sefer Zechron Shleimai Chaim. I don't know what that is. They asked Rav Elyashiv what bracha sushi. And they explained to Rav Yasher, you know what sushi is? Zeh meichel oirez chamotz. Oirez chamotz. That's how the sushi rice is, sour rice. Shem urav boy, that's mixed with it, al piroiv dog via rakus. Ubederech klal, and generally, hadog shaboy eno mavushal. Okay? That's how they explained it to Rav Yashiv. So Rav Yashiv hears someone is eating raw fish, and so Rav Yashiv says, V'heshiv mevur b'gemara, dog le mavushal yesh b'y sakana. It's a sakana to have raw fish, and on such a fish, you can't make a bracha on something that's a sakana, and therefore you only make a bracha on the rice. It's a humorous story, you know. Maybe we should repeat these stories because it makes us lose our faith in our gedalim. But it's not that we lose our faith in God. And the guy who explained it to him explained it like a turkey. You know what I'm saying? We have to know what's going on. Now it could be that there's more fundamental going on over here. There's a real machlekes. If a Gemara says something is a sakana, but we know it's not a sakana, what do we do with that? That's a whole fascinating sugya. What do we, how do we deal with these type of things? You know, if a Shulchan Aruch says something tastes bad, but we know it tastes good, what do we do with it? This is like the, of the largest machlekesim. This is where the whole sherry cask shaila starts and ends in the world of Toronto over this detail. Because if Shlomo Miller says the opener Shulchan Aruch, it says wine is nice and tam lefkam, it doesn't taste good in koltov when it's in the blia. So who cares that it's $1 billion industry? I don't care. Hey, keep your money to yourself. They're just tricking you. They're tricking you that it tastes better, and it's all one big lefkam, and therefore, says of Shlomo Miller, it's all mutter. Koltov, have a great day. I don't want to even understand this whole conversation. Okay, cold gedeli apais can be cleaner. Moshe Feinstein argue, so it's something that has to be dealt with. But to bring out that is part A. That is what we do with sushi. So
Sushi where you eat sushi, not eat the rice and the fish.
so therefore, what? Maybe yeah, maybe no. To you, it might be a right. You want both. To me, it might not be a right. I want both. Meaning, no. Let me answer better. Let me answer better. When I'm having my cereal and milk, I'm also having it together. Why am I not having my cereal and then my milk? The answer is because the milk enhances my cereal. When I have my cracker and my dip, when I have my rice cake with my peanut butter, anything I'm having together always is that way. The question is it enhancing? And often that is how it works, is that A is enhancing B, and therefore you only make one bracha.
The cracker with the dip is one thing. But what about the cracker and the ham?
So cracker and herring, again, it's very, every shaila in the world of brachas is subjective. And cracker and herring is a very good example. You go look in the Shulchan Aruch. You know Shulchan Aruch says? You make a shahakal, you don't even make a mezainis. Favas. So the Shulchan Aruch, the herring is so spicy that all you're doing is you're having a cracker, push it to be able to get the herring down your throat. As I stay in the Shulchan Aruch. No.
Use it as a
No. You have a fork next to you. No. Shulchan Aruch says because it's so spicy. Now there is a case that you're using it as a holder, but now in our world that we also eat crackers plain and we like crackers, it's very hard to parrot and say, oh no, the cracker is just no, it's not. We're just not being honest. I mean, if it is, it is, and it should be. It could be I love herring so much and I have a bowl of herring. Happens to be this time I'm using it as a cracker to get it down my throat. The Shulchan Aruch says that a cone of an ice cream, you don't make a bracha on it. You know why? Just holding the ice cream. It's holding the ice cream. Instead of putting it in a cup, I put it in a cone and I eat the cone, so I don't make a mezainis on it. It's so ridiculous in our world. So ridiculous. Of course you like the cone. What are you talking about? You ordered it on a cone, and the cone is a good taste, and the cone is good. So just because you just have to be honest, what are you eating? And it's true. It could be every person is different. There's no rule. There's even cases, and again, I'm scared to repeat this case. There are cases that says you don't make a bracha on bread. You don't make a bracha on bread. You know why? Because you just had a hot pepper, and your mouth is on fire, and there's pushing a piece of bread there. So you grab a piece of bread to eat it purely to put out the flames. Zehu. So you don't make a bracha on it. Because you're not eating food. You just put a fire extinguisher in your mouth. The reason these things are very difficult is because I've yet to see the person that's all he does. And then he takes another bite of bread. And the bread he enjoys. So it also puts out the flames. I hear. The cracker also is a holder to your herring. I hear. But you also enjoy the cracker. So in most cases, but let's go back to your cracker and herring. So which one is it? Is it a cracker? Is it a herring? Is the herring enhancing my cracker? There is a very good case. That's not the same thing as a dip in a cracker. A dip in a cracker usually just a mezainis for most people. For most people, unless it's a chunky type of dip that you really like the dip and you'd eat the dip by itself, which could be. But often a dip is you eating a cracker with a little dip, so it's enhancing the cracker. Mayridik. But if I'm marrying herring, often that's not true. I like herring. I like crackers. So what do? I have to make two brachas. I have to make two brachas. It's not A enhancing B. They're both enhancing each other. And yes, I'm eating them together. But yes, I like both of them. And that actually is a good raya to what we're talking about in sushi. Because if you go to other cases, it's not as simple. When you have a ice cream sandwich, it's not so simple to say to make two brachas. I love ice cream. Yeah, but you're eating a cookie. Mezainis wins. But in the cracker and the herring, you told me you can make two brachas. Because there, herring is a chashav item. Fish is a chashav item unto its own. Again, we're right now in a very deep world of machlekes in every word I'm saying. I'm just trying to give over general concepts. But that's going to be the reason why in the sushi, l'chayra, you're either going to make one bracha or you're going to deconstruct it and make multiple brachas, depending on your personal eating preference. Okay. With the time left, let's dive into mezainis. Let's give some klolim, and we'll give some names and faces, and we'll give what one could do, what one definitely cannot do, and then maybe what one should do. That's what we'll try to do. So the basic background is there is something called bread, believe it or not. I know in the world that we live in, it's very confusing. And people are already at the point of asking if bread is hamaitzi because everything is a mezainis. Everything, wherever you go, it's all mezainis. And it's very, very confusing. But there certainly is something called bread. Now, what is the reason? Let's just understand for a moment. What is mezainis rules? What's mezainis bread? Why is pizza a shayla? What's happening over here? So what happens over here is really this comes straight from the Shulchan Aruch on Kuf Samachas. Shulchan Aruch says that if you make dough with honey, milk, and fruit juice, the bracha is a mezainis. Gewaltig. Honey, milk, and fruit juice. Was there any water in my bread? Shulchan Aruch does not sound that way. The Ramah comes along, and the Ramah says, what are you kidding me? It's bread. It's almighty. Unless, says the Ramah, unless if you really taste the fruit juice, then it's a mezainis. Okay, step 2. Step 3, says the Mishnah Berurah, how much fruit juice? Mishnah Berurah says, roiv. Mishnah Berurah says roiv. Step 4, and this is where things went completely haywire, is the Marsham. The Marsham, Rav Shalom Shadran, the Das Torah, comes along, and he says, this is in Kuf Samachef Siv Zayin, he says that even if you don't taste the fruit juice, it still could be a mezainis. So I just want you to hear the progression for a moment. Shulchan Aruch said fruit juice, mezainis bread. The Ramah said, no, it's hamaitzi, it's bread. The Mishnah Berurah said, well, if you taste the fruit juice, okay, then I'll give in that it's going to be a mezainis. But if you don't taste the fruit juice, then of course it's going to be hamaitzi. The Das Torah, the Marsham, the Bujana comes along and says, even if you don't taste the fruit juice, it could be a mezainis. Okay. How much fruit juice? So everyone seemingly agrees it would have to be at least roiv. What type of fruit juice? Real fruit juice. Concentrate is not fruit juice. And this is where things get very, very sticky, because if you actually put 51% fruit juice inside your dough, it's not going to taste like you want it to taste. Or, as a guy who makes pizza said to me, no, Rabbi, let me tell you what we do. It's very simple. We put in 51%. We do. Makbid. But then we counteract it with every spice in the world to kill the taste that's sweet, so that the end product is you don't taste it. So what they're doing is, and this is, you never took a bite of your pizza and said, sweet roll. Never happened. You took a bite of your sweet roll and said, sweet roll. Why? What's the difference? Because the sweet roll is a sweet roll, and it's not a roll. A roll is a roll. I didn't just say any brachas at all. I'm just trying to bring out concepts, the difference over here. So when it comes to pizza, the first step to understand is it bread or not? Now, assuming that it is 51%, and even if you go with this Das Torah, even if you want, there's still one more big clause, huge asterisk that the world wants to forget about. If you're having a meal, it's over. No one holds. Zero. No one. No one. Everyone agrees. The Kuli Alma Maidim. Because this is the Sif in Shulchan Aruch. The creation of Pasa Ba B'Kisnin is fake. I'm going to use the word fake bread The halacha of fake bread is if you have a meal of it, you have to wash. If you have a meal of cake, you also have to wash. The reality is just we hope we don't eat that much cake in one sitting to wash. Although, as Rabbi Reisman, he says what's on his mind. He went over to one of his balabat to make kiddush one week. He said, Hashi, you should be benching when you're done. And he walked out. Because Hashi was sitting there with a plate to Shemayim of cake, and which I tell you. So, and that's real. I know it sounds funny, like, oh, you should wash on cake. That actually is halacha.
What's the amount?
I'm not going to get involved in the amount for one simple reason. Or wash and bench with al sidayim, hamaitzi, berchas hamaslin, the works.
How much?
It's a lot. It's a massive machlekes. How much? I'll tell you a case where we all should agree. First, you have something called challah, and then if you take your challah and you put it in chocolate in it, it becomes babka. Wonderful. So now let's say I sit down for lunch to a babka. The whole thing. That's my lunch. Is there anyone in this room that doesn't think I should wash a bench? You might not want to, but of course, you just ate a whole challah. You one kazayis, two kazayis, and 4 kabayim, 24 kabayim. You had the whole. I'm talking about a big one. I'm doing a big one. The whole thing. The whole thing. The answer is we don't do this generally. Va'id. What? Yes, no, so it's true. A lot of the reason I gave my case is because in a homemade one, it's going to be easier because the dough is really flour and water. They just add it. You are right. When you go, and this is where the quantities get very confusing. I was about to say is when you go buy cakes and things like that, the flour and water content is very small. And then you get involved in another machlekes, which is how do we weigh the quantities inside the cake? I'm not going to focus on how much is the quantity of cake to wash and bench, because no one here is going to wash and bench and cake, regardless if we see inside God's book himself that you should. It's just not happening. It's not happening, and we're not going to talk about that. But let's talk about things that we could understand. Not that you shouldn't. Again, if you have that babka, you should wash and bench. But okay. But let's talk about things which we all should agree. If you have a pizza type of food, I'm not talking about pizza yet, which is a dough that you made into your meal. Let's go meat pizza. Meat pizza is fascinating because they add the word pizza in it. We think, oh, I don't have to wash anymore. They took a piece of bread, they threw meat on it, and they put it in the oven. So why? What's the thought process here that you don't wash on it? It's a regular bread. It's a regular meal. It is my lunch. What's the thought process? So the answer is no, they're creating the dough like they create pizza dough. They're putting some level of fruit juice in. I'm going to say some level of fruit juice because, as I pointed out, it's really not so simple. Because again, according to the Ramah and the Mishnah Brura, which is really the Psak Halacha, even if it's fruit juice, if you don't taste it, it doesn't make a difference. Even if you want to say, according to this Das Torah, which in Eretz Yisrael, a lot of the Gedali Eretz Yisrael, the Bedats, they go with this Das Torah, and that's why if you walk into a lot of the very firm establishments, it says Berchasim is Zainais. But even there, it's only if it's a snack. If it's a meal, everyone agrees it's a Maitzi. Okay, next. So let's say it's these types of pizzas, and we're not sure what to do. And I'm not sure if I'm eating a meal or a snack, which is usually where we are in life. We're not sure what we're doing. Is it a meal? Is it a snack? It's in between. So that's where there's a gray area. I'll admit there's a gray area. I don't think anyone can say with conclusivity. Part of the reason is we don't actually know how they're making our pizzas. And it's very confusing. You want to be a tzaddik? A tzaddik doesn't do these things. Tzaddikim go and they wash on bread and then they eat these foods. Okay, that's not real life, so let's not talk about that. You want to know, are you allowed to wash? Let's go through what you're allowed to do. Are you allowed to say, I'm washing a pizza? Of course. Why of course? Because the Mishnah Brura said, if you have a dough that you can't taste the fruit juice content in it, Mishnah Brura paskind, you wash it. So we're now saying within these other, so you're allowed to wash? Of course you're allowed to wash. Also, I want to point out that I know we all parrot that, 20 years, 30 years ago, I even have a very forced book over here that, where he quotes Ramosha that one slice is this and two slices this. This was going in a world that was what everyone did. There was a very clear consensus that you had one slice, it's a snack, you have two slices, a meal. I'm just going to ask an open-ended question. Is that the reality today? I do not know. I don't know.
Or do we make halacha based on what
Yes.
everyone does?
So in this, but no, I'm asking how do they eat? Yes, this halacha. Good. So in this halacha, pasa babi kisnin goes by a meal. We have to define what is a meal, because once you're in the world of a meal, everyone agrees you have to wash. So to say it's not is very difficult. Very difficult. For sure. For sure makes sense where you live. In Eretz Yisrael, if I was there, they now it was up to 6 shekel, then it was 7 shekel, then it was 10 shekel. But there was a world of 5 shekel pizza. 5 shekel pizza. Yeah, basically, it was 5 shekel pizza. And by the way, Ben, that's my theory. You want to know what my theory is? You just nailed my theory. My theory is 20, 30 years ago, when the Gedali Paiskim were talking about one slice is a snack, that's because pizza was a cheap food. So for $1.50, you went, you got a slice, and it held you over to the next meal. Nowadays, you walk into the pizza store, you walk out without your clothing. You know, you're taking a mortgage for whatever you're doing. You take care of your family, you might as well go to a steakhouse. You know, no one knows what to forget about that. But so I don't know if it exists anymore that people are eating these things. Now it's true. I know we have in our freezers and we take it out and we throw in a slice. It's true. It does exist. But let's go into the world of a 5 shekel slice of pizza, which by the way, were also mini slices. So then we can understand, it's a mini slice. Everyone eats it as a snack. They make it with fruit juice. Now we can understand the world of mezainis. But in our world, that's not really the case. So again,
$5 a slice.
yeah, that's the wages in Eretz Yisrael the same ways. But $100,000, 100,000 shekel doesn't really make any sense.
Why don't
That's
you
what it
start with one mind thought and then you
Yeah, so that's really the problem. Is if you start with 1, you end up with 5. So on the way, you should have stopped and washed. You should have. And made everything. Meaning, if you have one slice, it's really good pizza. Oh wow, I'm really hungry. I'm gonna have another 3. You should stop, wash, the whole 9 yards. But let's say you were you were Bubby that's not having cake. I'm just gonna have one bite, and that one bite before you know it, she ate the whole cake. That's just one more bite. It's just one more bite. So if that's the way we were with pizza, and which happens when you cut it into halves. I just I'll have a half. No half. Oh, you didn't finish your half before you know, who ate the whole pie? Interesting. So if that's what happens, then yeah, you bench at the end. By the way, again, we don't have time for this. Hamaitzi and Berachas HaMazon are not connected. What does that mean? What that means is, if you messed up and you didn't make hamaitzi, why? Because. Don't ask why. Because you decided there's no water. The water is right outside. You decided there's no water and I'm not touching the bread, so I'm not washing. You're not allowed to do that, by the way. But that's what you did. And then you build you're building on the building. Your Avera Guerrero's Avera. Then when it comes to bench, you say, Rabbi, I don't need a bench. Why not? I don't wash. So I make alamilcha. No sheikhs. No sheikhs. Because you didn't wash, that's one issue you have. Okay, stay there, you'll deal with it. But now you have to bench. So in that case also, if you have one slice, you end up with 6 slices, then of course you have to bench. The pashtus, by the way, also is if you had one slice, but you had many other types of filling foods, it probably all combines also. So bekitzer, if you're having pizza as a meal, you really should be washing. You really should be washing. I know not everyone is listening, and that's okay. That's okay. At least let's understand where it comes from. And maybe you're going to say, no, I'm only going to have my mezainis types. I'm going to have one slice, and then I'm just going to fill up with salad and other stuff, and therefore I don't want to bench. Whether these things work or not is a different story. But yeah. But the bottom line is, a meat pizza is really the classical case that we should definitely go into our brain that you have to wash on, because it's literally meat. Meat is a main, and bread is a main. You took 2 mains and you put them together. The whole creation, and I'm skipping a lot of steps just to try to get a full idea out. The whole creation of this fake bread is that it's non-bread, not eaten, and not created as a meal, like a babka, like a donut. It's non-meal type foods. But if I take 2 meal foods, like a piece of steak and a piece of bread, and I put them together, and now I say it's not a meal, how did that just happen? That makes no sense. It's the greatest meal now. So it could be you're going to say, no, they serve it in a way. It's only little pieces at the smorgasbord, and it's maybe. I want to say a very, very important detail about croutons that it's a crime what a lot of stores do. It's a crime. I can say this in public because I've heard this from many rabbanim and many kashrus agencies. If you go to certain establishments, bagel stores particularly, and you order a salad, there's croutons. Great, right? So Rabbi, I'm not benching. I'm not washing. You know what? I wouldn't even have the bagel. Just having a salad. Okay, great. Then you have croutons. And as you know, the croutons, like, wow, these are really good. So you ask the store, where do the croutons come from? What do you mean we make them? What do you mean you make them? Well, you take the leftover bagels, you cut them up, you throw them in the oven, and you toast them. Is there anyone in the world now that says you shouldn't wash on that crouton? Could anyone fathom a reason that you shouldn't wash? No, no one did. No one, and the reason you're about to say, tell me if I'm right, is if it's made for that person. Shlom Zalman Arbach, Shlom Zalman Arbach is a moiridik chiddush. I got it. Shlom Zalman Arbach is a moiridik chiddush because when you buy croutons, when you buy bagel chips, by the way, what are bagel chips? They're bagels that they slice up. But the difference is, says Shlom Zalman, they're in the factory. They make the bagel to cut it up to make the bagel chip. So it's all tahalich. It's all in one process. So says Shlom Zalman, and many argue in Shlom Zalman, by the way. Many argue say Shlom Zalman. You kidding me? It was a bagel a moment ago. Because to make it into a crouton, to make it into a bagel chip. Now it's not a bagel anymore. It's a bagel. Fine, but they're fine. We'll take Shlom Zalman. Let's go slowly over here. So over there, okay, it was a bagel. They made with kavana to make it into a bagel chip, so it's a mezainis. But if I make bagels and I serve bagels and I eat bagels, now pumped, I have leftover bagels. I have leftover chalos. You know what I do with leftover challah? I cut it up into small pieces. I crank up the oven to 500. I throw it inside, and I have croutons. So of course it's still hamaitzi.
You have to make a separate broth on the salad also, or
No. So there, if you make hamaitzi, you made a maitzi.
See, I can post it yesterday.
You made maitzi.
Exact thing.
Oh really?
Well, yes, I can open it.
Let me hear.
He said for homemade croutons made from leftover bread which was toasted, make a mitzi. If eaten with salads or soup, 2 brachos are required. That mitzi does not exempt other foods.
That's a chiddush.
Yes.
That level, I didn't even realize he spoke about this. Oh, no, I didn't.
I
Oh,
posted yesterday.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
What about Stacy chip?
You show, but he's saying, can I just explain the chiddush he's saying? I mean, if he said it, I'd be happy to parry it. Saying a mayr take a chiddush, it's pashut in Havana, it's pashut in Svara. We all know that hamaitzi patters everything, right? But can hamaitzi patter everything if the hamaitzi is a fake hamaitzi that, like, I don't want to be hamaitzi, I just got tricked into making hamaitzi on it? So he's saying in there, Gedolei Paiskim that say that no, this fake hamaitzi can't patter up your salad. It's no shaykhs. The hamaitzi is the tafel. It's a unique chiddush. That would be almost like saying not to make hamaitzi on the bread. That would, just because it's getting rid of the fire in my mouth, would be a similar chiddush because it's mamish no shaykhs. But definitely if to make hamaitzi, and
Based on that, if you have real fruit juice pizza, you make a mitzi that's not pattering you on your French fries and your.
So good. So the reason why we wouldn't say that is because there it is the meal at least. It is the meal. Here, it's something very unique. It's that you took this bread, you made it into a way that it's not a meal. That's right. But you're right.
It's the tuffle.
Yeah. It becomes a tuffle. It's a fascinating thing. And someone actually called me recently, and I told him, I don't know what to tell you. I told him to wash. He said he's in a restaurant. He said the croutons look like they were bread yesterday. I said, well, like they're stale? He said, I'm pretty sure they're bread yesterday. What do I do? I said, I don't know what to tell you. I said, well, you have to wash. I said, ask the waiter. He had to ask me after. He said, I was on a date. I thought it'd be weird to start asking, by the way, was this bread yesterday? No, but it's a problem. It's a very big problem in Eretz Yisrael. I know this was in the Heilige Sam's Bagels on Paran, for all those who know. Rabbi Wiener made a mechama against this because they used to serve bagels. It's a bagel store. And then they would have croutons, and the croutons were the bagels. And he said, it's just not fair. So what do? They just put up a big sign. Shkoyach, no one listens to that. Make hamaitzi on the croutons. But at least it was something. That's a very important detail. Now, we're going to end with wraps. We're going to end with wraps, and then at the end, I'll just say a few quick halachas because I want to finish. Wraps are a massive fight. Why are wraps a massive fight? Because there's one way you can make bread not bread. One way in the world. Actually, I'll say 2 ways you can make bread not bread, and it's really the same thing. If you take bread and you boil it, you throw it into water, you destroy the bread, you kill the bread. It's not bread anymore. No, but bagel is done as dough and then it's baked. Yeah, afterwards. And this is like matzah brei world. You have to.
That's what he said.
Oh, what did he say? Let me hear.
He said bread always contains broth, unless it's cooked and it's also made into pieces that are less than a size.
Less than exact. Good. So this really opens up the whole world of matzah brei. It really should be. I should really be reading these to help me. French toast. It really opens up the whole world of these type of things. But I don't want to go there. What I want to point out is you could kill bread. Good. Now, what if I make bread in a way that it doesn't look like bread? It just it doesn't look like bread. Challah kugel would be similar to what he said, is that it crushed up pieces.
Yeah,
Uh,
stuffing.
Yeah. So now I should go back. I didn't realize he's doing brachas now. I really should go back. Okay, Murray did. So when you make wraps, the wrap is basically flour and water. It's bread, but it's pounded very, very thin, and it's made into a wrap. So madinoi. Now we should really, if we were like an alien dropping into this world right now, we would not know the conversation. We'd say, well, what's a lafel? Laf's a hamaitzi, right? Of course. So why is the wrap any different? It's a little bit thinner. And also Ashkenazim that make hamaitzi on matzah, we say the same thing. Now Sfardim don't make hamaitzi on matzah, so they have a different world. We make hamaitzi on all these things. So if we make hamaitzi, so why not a wrap? So the answer is, everyone who has YouTube, they could go look and watch the video of Rav Elyashiv, that they showed Rav Elyashiv a wrap. And Rav Elyashiv, as he's walking, showed him a wrap, he took it, he went like this, said, this is not bread. In Yiddish, it's not surisa dinama. This isn't bread. Therefore, it's a mezaitis. That's what Elyashiv said. On the other side, Rav David Feinstein, the mashal, they showed him a wrap, and he said, it's a bagel. What's your question? I thought Feinstein, real American. It's a bagel. Like, leave me alone. Like, what are you hacking me to China? Can they trying to push him? He didn't understand the conversation. I sat with the Mafsalio, Rafalk, and he said the same thing. He took the wrap. Nah, it's not bread. Like, wow. You became a cuddle when you're allowed to just, it's not bread. So you told me Shmuel Kamenetsky says on the other side, it also says it's not bread. It's a mezainis. So what lemaisa with wraps? This thing is very complicated. We're not going to talk about that. Just after personally hearing from Rafal that it's a mezainis, I have a hard time, even though in sugya it's very difficult to say it because it should be hamaitzi. But if he said it's a mezainis, which I tell you. So l'chayra, if you want to be a tzaddik, you're feeling good that day, what should you do? You should pater it. If you're having a meal with your wrap, which often is the case, then you should find a way to wash. If you're not having a meal and your wrap is a snack, what should I tell you? I definitely think, no, but shwarm is a lafa. But yeah, it's a meal. But yes, if you're having a wrap as a meal, which many people do. But let's say you're at the smorgasbord and they cut up the wraps into these little pieces, and you want to know, do I have to go wash? Chayra yesh almi lismaich, to make a mezainis. So in summation, sushi is either mezainis or two brachos. Pizza, if you're having it as a meal, once you're ready, committed, the 3-digit bill, with that comes that you got to wash and bench. What should I tell you? If you're having pizza mamish as a snack, maybe there is some validity. Perhaps it really depends on how it's made. There is some shitas to rely upon to make a mezainis. If you didn't wash just because you weren't interested, you still have to bench. Does not make a difference. You can't allow the averis to compound. You still have to bench. And that was a real case saying that if the water's there and you don't touch the bread, you don't want to wash. That's a total tayis. That's absolutely keneged halacha. The only time you're allowed to not touch the bread and not wash is if there is no water. If there is water, then of course you have to go wash. And what does mean water? It means 18 minutes off the road, 72 minutes on the road, which in our world means there's almost always water. And therefore you have to wash. And finally, wraps. It should be hamaitzi, just like we make hamaitzi on pizza, on a lafa, and on matzah. Oh, and the public service announcement. That yes, if you take your bagels and your bread, you make it into croutons, make hamaitzi. I'm not going to weigh in on the salad. I don't want to argue on Meir Rabbi. Yeah, so it does. I mean, sometimes you get these wraps, and you're like, why are they calling it a wrap? It's a lafa. I'm asking. It does get difficult at some point. Shkoya.